And there's a certain degree of entitlement. I think people who are, in the religious groups like that, it's not the type of Christianity that I practice, but I think that they're entitled, and that entitlement comes from a supremacy, a white supremacy. And they think that this country was built for them, that it is a Christian country, when actually we left England because we wanted religious freedom. It's religious freedom, but only if you're a Christian and only if you're a white male, pretty much.
MAGA administration and the fake news MAGAs are losing their mind over something that's not even true. So let me just make it clear, because this assistant attorney general, I don't know, gosh, what's her name? Something Hammett, Dillon or whatever. So I had no affiliation to that organization. I didn't even know they were going to this church until we followed them there. We were there chronicling protests. Once the protest started in the church, we did an act of journalism. Speaking to an organization there that's gearing up for resistance and protest. I've been pleasantly surprised to see the community coming together. Diverse community. If you see this, when we first pulled up, we're like, wait a minute, which operation are we at? And as it turns out, because we were like, well, this is kind of MAGA coded, right? So the American flag or whatever, but these are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but it's called Operation Pull Up. Thank you guys thanks for allowing me to be here.
Okay,
Thank you guys.
Okay.
How are you?
Good.
Good to see you. We're on. We're not saying what it is, what's going on, but thank you.
Let's get back to the madness in Minneapolis. We now have churches falling victim to this lawless insurrection. Protesters stormed a city's church service after claiming one of the pastors there is an ICE agent. Don Lemon was with the protesters, naturally. Let's listen to his report.
Have gathered over here. They're in the middle of the church. In the beginning of the church service, the pastor was speaking, and Nakima stood up and said her piece, and then the protesters surrounded her. But this is a clandestine mission. I think they found out according to them, this is according to Operation Pull Up, that one of the pastors here is a member of ICE. And so here we go.
You could talk to the lead pastor.
Yeah.
Joining me now is president of the Center of the American Experiment and writer for the popular Powerline blog, John Hinderaker. John, we're now storming a church service, frightening parishioners, surrounding the pastor. What in God's name is happening in your state?
Rita, what is going on in Minnesota is an insurrection, a rebellion against federal authority. We haven't seen anything like it in the United States since 1861, when the Confederate States seceded. This insurrection is being incited by Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, and Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis. And it has now spiraled out of control, in part because local police are being held back and are not maintaining order. Invading a church on a Sunday morning, it's an absolute outrage. These so-called protesters are at a minimum trespassing. And if they each spent a week in the county jail, these disruptions would stop immediately, but that isn't happening. And the protests keep getting more and more disruptive. The Democrats are at war against the Trump administration, and that's the basic reality. Anything the administration tries to do, the Democrats resist with all their might. And these liberals do not want federal immigration law to be enforced. And it's terrible, Rita, because these ICE agents are picking up murderers, multiple murderers, child rapists, criminals of all sorts. And of course, they're all illegal aliens to boot, which is a crime in itself. And the Democrats simply don't want these laws to be enforced. And this is their way of making war on the Trump administration.
John, you talked about some of these violent offenders who are being rounded up, and I want to play you this clip from an officer who has had enough with these protesters. Listen to this.
So you're reporting, we're here to arrest a child sex offender. And you guys are out here honking.
Oh, we're not. No, we're pressed. No, we're not.
That vehicle right there is honking and impeding our investigations while we're trying to arrest a child sex offender. That's who you guys are protecting. Insane.
John, it is insane because we are having murderers deported, child sex offenders, rapists, and yet these protesters are doing everything within their power to try to obstruct.
That's a key point, Rita. They aren't really protesting. What they're doing is interfering with these ICE agents who are trying to enforce federal law. That is a federal crime. You cannot impede and interfere with law enforcement. They'll do things like they'll park their vehicles perpendicular across the street. So they'll try to trap ICE agents in a particular place so they can't get out and go about their law enforcement duties. They harass them in a multitude of ways. And it's a crime, and yet they are not being punished.
And these protesters aren't just agitated about ICE and deportation. They're also upset about the focus that has been on the fraud in your state, the fraud perpetrated mainly by segments of the Somalian community. Tell me a little bit about that. Do we yet know the full scale of this fraud?
Well, Rita, we know some of it. The Feeding Our Future scandal is kind of the headline here. It has been for the last 4 years. In the Feeding Our Future scandal, so far, 78 people have been charged, 57 have been convicted. There have been a couple of trials as well as guilty pleas, and there are more charges pending. That's a $500 million theft. But the assistant U.S. attorney who has prosecuted those Feeding Our Future cases says that they've been investigating the $18 billion in Medicaid spending in Minnesota over the last few years, and he's concluded that at least one half of that $18 billion has been stolen by fraudsters. So we're probably looking at a fraud here of $10 billion or more.